Welcome to the MIDCONVO podcast. It's Paul and Ed, and we are tuning in from Miami and Seattle to bring you some juicy conversation on the topic of how to respond to low-budget clients. Ed.
We all been there. We all got those inquiries where they come in and you're like, yo, this is way lower than my normal rate, but I want to make some money still. I don't want them to walk away. How do I navigate this conversation? And how do I still keep them, but maybe bump up the rate or maybe make it make more sense for me? We've all been in that situation. So that's what we're going to go over in today's episode. Let's not waste any time. You know what we do here. Roll that intro music.
Do you know what, Ed? At the end, we should tell the people when is a good time to say yes to low budget clients. Because let's be honest, you might be a listener and you might be like, okay, cool. I feel like I keep getting a lot of low budget inquiries. Should I say no? Should I say yes? Guess what? There are a few circumstances where maybe you should say yes. But hey, let's jump into the first point here. I'll kick it off by saying that whether they come through your inbox, through your contact form, the Instagram DMs, the referral from Aunt Sally, guess what? We've all experienced, or we're all going to experience, leads that come to you or come to us that are way under our get out of bed price or what we're used to get paid for our client projects. First one that comes to mind is stick to your guns. The reason being is that a lot of freelancers struggle with talking about money and pricing and negotiation. If you're able to stick to your guns, guess what? They might look at you as, wow, they're actually worth way more than what we thought, and they have a premium service, or maybe, hey, they're much different than the other photographers we've used in the past that are willing to, take $500 for a full day shoot. By sticking to your guns, you might get that client to come back to you months from now, or maybe a year from now and say, hey, we now have a budget where we're able to afford you. So I can't harp on this enough. If you're in a position where you've already been able to prove that clients are willing to pay you whatever your rate is, stick to your guns.
Don't be loosey-goosey on that. You got to stick to your guns.
Yes. And I'll be honest, if you are, again, booked and busy, you've been going at this for a while, if you have a strong portfolio, if you're active on social media, if your brand as a whole is cohesive and you know exactly who your target client is, and you get leads that are maybe coming in and they're like low budget, it's okay. Because guess what?
Yeah.
The majority of leads that come in might be low budget, but there's definitely going to be clients out there that are willing to pay you for your premium service.
Yeah. And that rolls into kind of the next point, but hitting on that first point just a little bit more. What do you do in those instances where you can't stick to your guns, or sticking to your guns gives you a lot of anxiety because you don't want them to walk away? I always view pricing negotiation as a bit of like an investment. You know, when you're investing your hard-earned money into, let's say, the stock market or some sort of investment, there's always a rule. Don't invest money that you can't afford to lose.
Oh.
Right? Because you are emotionally attached to that money. So if you throw 10K into a stock and it disappears tomorrow, how does that make you feel? How would you feel if you lost that 10K tomorrow? If it's like absolutely crippling, that's a good gauge on where you're at financially speaking. Everyone's at different points, everyone's at different levels, and that's okay. But this is important when it comes to pricing on the business side as a freelancer, because let's say an inquiry comes in and you deem it as low, but you get anxiety, get to the thought of them walking away.
Mm-hmm.
That might mean that your negotiation power right now is a little low because you need that money. So that rolls into the second point. They're low budget. How do you get that budget up? How can we get that budget up? And how can you have that negotiation without necessarily being like, these are my prices, take it or leave it? What's like the second option there? The second option, in my opinion, is if you don't want to do that route necessarily, it's to basically reduce deliverables, potentially, make it make sense for you, and don't discount your services. Don't ever discount your services. It's kind of similar to sticking to your guns, like sticking to your guns from a rate standpoint. But if you ever discount your services for a low budget client, they will take advantage of you for the next gig and the next gig. And forever gigs that you get with this client, they're always going to request that discount. And so Paul, Paul honestly has had so much experience, y'all, with pricing and going from 1K negotiations to $50,000 negotiations. What do you do if you don't want the client to walk, but their budget's a little low? Well, how have you navigated those conversations?
You got to ask yourself, is this a project that I'm willing to take on because maybe it's going to also be portfolio work that'll help you go out and attract other clients? But I like what you said. Instead of discounting to meet their budget, if you reduce deliverables, maybe it's, hey, instead of shooting all day, let's actually just shoot for 2 hours. This fits your budget. Or, hey, you want to shoot with 3 talent, have 3 outfit changes? Heck no, not with your budget. We're going to shoot with 1 talent, 2 outfits in your backyard. Because here's the deal. The low budget clients that have no budget are always the most demanding, or they can be. They're higher maintenance.
Yeah, 100%.
And I just want to say, I love small to mid-sized businesses. I love startups. But you got to know that not every single one of the decision makers or the people that are reaching out to you know what your process is or have an idea for what it's like working with someone who's a professional and what they do. So it might take you educating them a little bit. And that brings me to a point that I feel like a lot of freelancers miss out on is when a lead comes to your inbox, referral, DM, email, whatever, don't immediately throw them out the door because they fill out your form with their budget of maybe $500 when really your starting rate is $1,500. So don't immediately be like, yo, there's no way I'm responding to them or there's no way we're going to work together, because I have found that if your process involves getting them on a Zoom call, a discovery call, and asking the right questions, sharing your process, and getting to know them a little bit more, I have found that I've literally had clients within the last couple of years. Last year, there was a brand that reached out to me and they're like, yo, we want all these things and our budget's $1,000. Guess what? When they went out, when I finally sent them the last invoice and we secured it, it was a $10,000 project. If I would have just based everything off of what they said in an email, I literally would have lost out on that $10,000. So take the time to get them on a discovery call, ask the right questions. And Ed, I feel like you're really good at that. What is one way on a discovery call someone that's listening can figure out, okay, are they even going to be able to afford me? I don't want to waste any more breath on this.
I think to determine whether or not they're going to be able to afford you is right out the gate, ask them what their previous experiences have been with content creation. I love to ask that question because right off the bat, you will know, okay, does this person understand the value of paying a lot of money for content, or are they trying to price negotiate? They're trying to get the best deal, they're price shopping. If you get the sense that they're price shopping, right then and there, you need to decide, are you going to continue this conversation with this individual, or do you want to maybe throw out some numbers and get a gauge on where they fall? You need to figure out in the first 5 minutes of a call where you're going to go with the negotiation. Are you going to stick to your guns and price anchor, or are you going to start referring them to someone else? Because that's also a method, which we might touch on in a little bit. But that's what I do, is I determine, even before the discovery call, honestly, I know me and Paul, we both love having discovery calls, but even before the discovery call, I'm trying to determine where they're at. And one thing that I've realized is you'll notice that most clients, even brands, agencies, anyone who hires you for your creative services, I've learned something, and it's everyone has a creative at every price point. You'll go to an agency, they know who they're going to hit up for the budget gig. They have someone in their back pocket for that. They also know who they're going to hit up for a $50,000, $100,000 big production. They have a crew in mind for that. They have people placed at every level of that ladder, typically. So the question is, where are you on that ladder? Where are you on that spectrum? Because you need to figure out, are you on the high end where they're going to come to you when they have budgets, or are you on the low end where they're you're that budget videographer, you're that budget photographer, they're going to come to you when you need quick turnaround times and not enough budget. So it's figuring out where you fall in that, that kind of pool of content creators or contractors that they work with is huge, Yo,
you brought up discovery calls and we all love plugs, right? We're all plug fans here. With that being said, we have an episode that we've already recorded that's out. It's on asking the right questions. So if you're trying to figure out what discovery call questions should I be asking Paul and Ed, go check out that episode. Real quick, I want to share my process for how I respond to low budget clients. And then I want to hear yours real quick. Before I even respond, I do my research. How big is this company? What does their website look like? What does their Instagram look like? What are their core values? Guess what? If I go to their website and I'm like, heck no, none, their values on their website don't align with where I want to be working and like the type of people or clients that I want to be attracting, then it might be a good time to refer them. But with that being said, you got to do your research on, okay, they're coming in low. Why? Cool. They're a startup. Maybe they're uneducated. Get them on a discovery call. Communication's everything. On that call, you're asking the right questions, and you can be upfront with them and just say, hey, this is my starting at price. This is where I'm at. I've done projects like this in the past. If it's not a good fit, I can refer someone, which brings me to Ed. What is different about your process, if anything? Would you say we have pretty similar processes like when leads come through?
I think it varies.
What if you were like, yo, Paul, your process is trash, man?
Guys, off the mic, I always tell Paul how like I'm closing more deals than him. Okay, guys?
Oh, what?
I'm just kidding. Paul honestly has been, when I tell you guys that the partnership that we've had for MIDCONVO is great, is because the only reason I feel like personally I'm able to charge more, like in the $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 ever for a project, or I even have confidence for that, is because I actually was helping Paul on a pricing workshop in New York, and that's kind of where I met Paul. But honestly, from that one workshop, I learned a lot from Paul and how he handles, like everything we're talking about on this episode, y'all, they're all mindset tips. It's the way you approach pricing. It's the way you approach negotiating. It's not, there's no secret sauce to just get big leads into your inbox. Whoever tells you that like whatever funnel they create for you, you're going to get crazy $10,000 leads. It doesn't work like that. As a creative in this industry, it's all about your negotiation skills. It's all about your business skills. It's how you approach a situation. Those are the things that are going to help you bump up your rates. And so for me and my pricing kind of the process is a little different from Paul, because I think the nature of the inquiries we both get are just a little different. I sometimes get deals on the more like influencer brand collaboration side, which the pipeline for that is much different than someone where they're trying to bring Paul in as like a creative strategist, right? There's a lot more front end on that. Discovery calls are necessary because they need to know what Paul's about in his process. For me, I have a lot of times where I close clients and I don't hop on discovery calls, where they just come in as emails and then I close them over emails as well. But for me, what I do is I'm very intentional about sticking to my guns, like we just talked about. And I try my best to know my worth. And this is the important part that I want to say, that's the process that we both have. Knowing your worth is huge. And the reason why, for anyone listening to this, pricing doesn't really matter. I'm going to just say it right now. If your work is trash, your work is trash. Like, you go and get low budget clients if your work is trash. I'm sorry if like that is like kind of harsh for some people, but you need someone to tell you that, because you need to start talking to your friends in the industry, right? Look at your work and look at someone you know that is making a ton of money.
Yeah, do the market research.
Yeah, gauge your work off of that person's work. And if you can confidently say to yourself in the mirror, be like, yo, I'm fire. This content's fire. It's at the same level of the people I know that are making a ton of money. Then you might need to tweak some things in your negotiation process or in your discovery call process. But if you can confidently look in the mirror and be like, I'm not going to lie, my work is looking a little lacking right now. It's not looking as fire.
Dusty, bro.
Yeah, you need to figure out a little bit where you lie on that like pricing chart. And this is so important, because I feel like a lot of creatives, like they know that they need to worry about business, but because they're not looking at their work more through that lens of like, where do I actually lie in this pool of creatives that like the rates that are going around, because they're just trying to find that bulletproof sales pitch, that bulletproof like hack, those are the ones that are going to struggle the most. So it's like really having that honest conversation with yourself is, where do I lie? So for me, in my process, going back to that, when a brand reaches out, let's say for a YouTube integration, right, on my YouTube channel, and I'm throwing out rates or throwing out numbers, right, in that brand collaboration, I need to see what my friends are charging that I feel like we are in similar ballpark ranges. Then I base my price off that. I wouldn't just blindly throw out a number and be like, oh, this is high. Like, hopefully this works for me. You need to have a little bit more science behind it, a little bit more finesse, a little bit more research, like Paul said. Figure out where your quality versus price kind of correlation is.
I like that. Let's put the word industry awareness on that. You got to be aware of whatever your niche is or whatever industry you're in as a creative freelancer entrepreneur. Yo, what the heck's going on? Like, what are other people doing? I like to know what like friends of mine are charging for day rates based on deliverables, based on scope, all those things, because I can take those things, the market rate, and plug that into my own systems. But the last point that we had here is responding to low budget clients. I think some people just ghost brands that are like, yo, we don't have a budget. One thing I like to do is I actually like to connect them and refer them to someone that might come to mind as being a good fit and also might not be as experienced, because at the end of the day, you never know where that relationship's going to go. So for me, if a lead comes in that's low budget, but there's someone in my city or someone in my network that has brought up to me that they're trying to build their clientele, I might say, hey, I personally can't take on this gig, but I can refer somebody. And if anything, I think it's cool to share work, especially share referrals. But Ed, I feel like those 4 things are really important, but people that might be listening that might be like, yo, I need to build a portfolio. I'm just starting out, or maybe I'm coming out of an agency job and I can't use the portfolio work from the agency for my own portfolio. And I keep running into low budget inquiries. When do you feel like people should take and accept low budget clients?
Yeah, I think that every creative who is successful currently, don't even just think about like Paul or people you listen to on podcasts, just like think about anyone in the creative industry that you follow that's successful. I would almost put my money on it that every successful creative has had a season of life in the early stages where they needed to take a ton of low budget gigs. They needed to take those low budget gigs in order to get to the next level. Like even me, like you go on social media and I see like I'm doing other projects now, but if you scroll way back to my like where I first started and when I was like trying to be a freelancer, I was taking all the not sexy low budget deals. Your boy started in real estate. I was doing weddings, senior portraits, you name it. Like I was doing all the random things. One time I did a gig for this like mobile mechanic, bro. I was like in a school parking lot trying to get this person to do an oil change on a freaking car, and I was like making this snazzy video for it, bro. Like,
Ed, you told
it's
me
crazy.
You told me you did that gig a week ago.
But like,
don't even lie,
for
bro.
real
That
though,
was a
like,
week ago.
You're right. My bad. That was actually last week. I was taking low budget gigs. But I only charge like, I think I charged like $300 or $400 for that project. Took me like a whole day. Had to edit it forever. Like, anyway, it was a low budget gig. My point in saying all that is there is going to be a season for you, if you're especially in the early stages, where you're going to need to take those low budget gigs to build out Runway. The only way that you can have that pricing power, remember we talked about in the very early part of the episode, that negotiating power where if a client were to come into your inbox and walk away right now and you're like, whatever, like there's the door. Like if you don't want to work with me, my budget's too high, then there's the door. The only way you get to that point is because you have built up enough portfolio, you've built up enough of a bank account cushion so that you're not afraid to speak in that manner. And in order to get to that point, you need to start somewhere. You need to invest $1 before you invest $10,000.
Hey.
Right? So you got to start somewhere. So that's, to answer your question, I think that if you're in a season where your work maybe isn't at the point where you want, you keep getting low budget gigs and you're not making money and you're not working on anything, it might be time just to buckle down, start working on these low budget gigs as quickly and as like efficiently as possible, and then work your way up to a point where you feel comfortable enough to start throwing out some bigger numbers that doesn't scare you. That's where I'm at.
I'm going to agree with that. That's easy. Yeah. I think a lot of people will message me and Ed and say, hey, this has come up a lot where it's like, hey, I'm trying to figure out if I should move to a bigger city because the clients aren't as big and they don't have big budgets. Guess what? Where you live doesn't determine the size of the client or whether they have a budget or not. When I lived in Minnesota, I've literally was working with clients in the suburbs that had fat budgets, fatties. But I'm in Miami and sometimes I get inquiries for gigs in Miami. Miami is one of the biggest cities in the United States where people are asking me for a full day coverage with edits delivered the next day at 8 a.m. and they're telling me their budget's $500. Hell no. So I just want to encourage you guys that moving your digits, moving your digs won't determine the gigs. But I'm serious though. I think a lot of people just need to know that it is really a reflection of how serious you take your own portfolio and you run your own business. If you want to attract high value, big budget clients, make sure that yourself is perceived as that and you will attract them. It'll be easier for outreach. It'll be easy for referrals and networking. I promise you that. But Ed, I think we touched on some good points when it comes to the low budget clients. Can you recap us real quick?
One more point that I want to make was if the low budget client comes in hot, bro, like they're coming in demanding a ton of stuff, the rate they give you is just absolutely atrocious. Like it's nowhere even near
Trash.
Where you would take that money. Like it's just the worst. It's basically borderline disrespectful. What I typically do is I'll get coordinates from my local trail and I'll send them a Google Maps address and I say, you need to take this address and go take a hike, bruh.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's the best part.
I'm so dead.
That's the best part. No, honestly, it's all fun and games, but we want to let you guys know that I'd say on a monthly basis, I get low budget inquiries. I don't take it.
It never changes.
I don't take it. I don't take it to offense. I don't take it personal. Ultimately, I have a lens that I'm able to bring clients through on if they're going to be a good fit or not. One of the things that I would say in a season of being booked and busy, if they don't have the budget that is going to meet where I'm currently getting paid, guess what? I got to move on. It's not a good fit. So I just want to encourage you guys that these 4 things that we touched on how to respond to low budget clients. First one being stick to your guns. Second one, Ed, you want to hit on it?
Yeah, the second one is to reduce your deliverables. If you don't want them to walk away, reduce your deliverables and make it make sense for you, right? If they're asking for a full day, ask if they want to switch it to like a half day or maybe even like 3 hours. And that way it's a win-win for both.
That's good. Number 3 is stick to your process. Don't give up on them because they came through your inbox with a low budget. Get them on a discovery call or however you want to approach them. That's what I like doing. And you can either throw them a starting at price or you can lean on what we call price anchoring. And then how about the last one?
The last one is if you've exhausted all efforts to bump up the rate and all those things, you just refer them. Refer them to someone that you know in the industry. And as Paul probably experienced it, I have too. You'd be surprised when you refer people, they sometimes still come back to you because they appreciate their referral, but they now have the budgets to work with you and they come back to where they started because they valued how you positioned yourself. So sometimes it's a win-win on that front because you bring your homie some business. You also, keep up your reputation and your perception of how your work is to the brand, and you can move on. Everyone kind of wins in that situation as well.
That's good. All right, I got to jump off because I just got a low budget inquiry. But hey, if you found value from this episode, go give us a 5-star. Make sure that you're following MIDCONVO, and we can't wait to see you on the next episode.
See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Ed, should I say yes to this low budget client?
Okay, off the mic though, it's probably a senior portrait, bro. Don't lie. You did one last week. Just say yes, bro.
All right, fine, I'll do it. Her parents can't come to the shoot. Oh, that's weird. See you later.